So let's have a look at the news story about this first of all. And this is the announcement made by Labor today.
Chris Hipkins has ruled out a capital gains tax or a wealth tax while he's in charge. It comes as Labor's set to release its tax policy in the lead up to the October election. But while the big news came today, the Prime Minister wasn't the one announcing it. Deputy Political Editor Mikey Sherman explains.
While the Prime Minister's been busy schmoozing and talking trade overseas, back home his Finance Minister's been reeling in any hope Labor will tax the rich.
Obviously you've heard that Chris Hipkins, as the Labor leader, has ruled out a wealth tax and a capital gains tax.
Chris Hipkins making a captain's call despite his Finance Minister being keen as mustard.
That might be something that I would have liked to have had happen.
Good on him. Good on Robertson for saying that. You know, good on him for saying we don't have to all be in agreement here. He goes on to say he's a team player, but I mean, I don't know whether this has come from the PR department or whatever, but good on Robertson for saying it's not what he'd want to do. So yeah, but we'll keep going.
But it's not happening. I'm a team player. I believe in the Labor Party. I believe in what we stand for.
Others, though, losing faith in the Labor leader.
He'll be judged in history as someone that led governments that weren't able to face the big challenges that we're facing and just really kick the can down the road.
He's actually just been politically expedient and going to say and do anything in order to win an election.
Much like every politician and much like you, Mr. Luxon, say and do anything to win an election. Now, I guess the one thing from a political position they've done is they have backed National into a corner, and they now are going to have to. The only thing that Actor National can now do is say they're lying, because I'm not saying it's okay. I've been very clear that I think this is not only a cowardly move but a dumb move. But is it going to take away a talking point? Probably not. The talking point's now going to be you can't trust them. That's what the talking point's going to be, Chewy.
Yeah.
Documents out today show at this year's budget the government considered a new wealth tax but ultimately decided against it. The 1.5 tax would have targeted net worth over $5 million, affecting around 46,000 people. It could have meant an extra $3.4 billion in tax revenue next year, $3.5 billion the year after, then $3.7 billion, totalling almost $11 billion in just 3 years.
What do you think about the $5 million threshold, Chewy? I mean, because this is what I think, yeah? I think about people in places like Auckland, Queenstown, places where the property market is through the roof. For some of them, it might not be that difficult to be asset rich. I don't know if to that level. I don't know. Is it? Would you like? My initial reaction is maybe a bit higher, but I'm not sure about that. What do you think?
I think that Labor should lean over and just steal the Greens' work. Just outright steal it. They've already done it. They've already costed it. Just support it. But yeah, I mean, I think Labor's in this position, right, where National's promising a tax cut, because of course they are. The Greens have come out of left field and also promised a bigger tax cut and have absolutely done the work on it, because they know that people would go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and it fucking works. And then Labor is vote for us if you think things are going okay.
Yeah.
We're not offering you anything. Like just purely from a marketing point of view, they've kind of screwed. I saw one of my friends say that this is Labor. You know that meme of the dog sitting in the burning building going, "This is fine."
Yeah,
that's Labor. Put Hipkins' face on that dog. It's just weak. It just seems like it's pre-election paralysis.
Yeah, weak is a really good word. I like the word weak. I think it's really good. Politikiwi's also said. Also, I think we know Politikiwi is a big Green supporter. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying where Politikiwi always talks from. $2 million is still well over the average house price in Auckland. Even if you pay your mortgage, there you wouldn't qualify off that asset loan. Yeah, look, I mean, I guess what I'm doing is thinking off the cuff by myself right now about what a wealth tax would be. Yeah, and I think $5 million is probably okay, but I guess I hadn't thought about it, because every time we think about wealth tax or taxing the wealthy, we talk about income. You know, we talk about incomes of $180,000 or more. So I guess I'm just getting my head around 5 million. What would that be? And yeah, it seems fine, I guess. I mean, I'm on board. I'm on board.
It's better. It's better than nothing. Like the other thing, like Grant Robertson is clearly pissed.
Yeah.
Like he is annoyed. And I can see why. He's a dude that's totally across his numbers. Again, they've done the work. They got the IRD to see who's paying tax and who isn't. They've done all the working groups and the studies to say, hey, look, there's huge benefits that we can have making a tax-free portion of income. We need to look at tax brackets and that sort of thing. Maybe a wealth tax would be a weapon against inflation and that sort of thing. They've got all of that, all of those numbers, all of that proof. And all they need to do is put it together and back it. And I get the feeling that Grant Robertson was doing that, like actively putting together a case for it. And then Hipkins comes in and says the most fucked statement. Like, I'm just reading it now. I'm confirming today that under a government I lead, there will be no wealth or capital gains tax after the election. End of story. With Kiwi households struggling, now is simply not the time for a big shake-up of our tax system.
Yeah.
What? If not now, when?
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a stupid, people are doing it tough, so we're going to keep it the same.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually as stupid as the conversation that we looked at last night with Brooke Van Velden, where ACT wants to change it all back to the way it was before, and Anna Burns-Francis went, but you're not making any improvements. And she was like, yes, but it's not any worse. And why would you go back to something that already wasn't really working, even though you're saying that this thing is working what's the point? And what we're talking about now with the tax takers, it's actually something that's not working well enough. And all of those questions about, how much money we've got to spend, and we talk about it, hospitals, schools, nurses, doctors, tax takers, what we need to improve those areas. I mean, I know that I often talk about household budgets, but if you want to upgrade your house, if your kitchen needs to be renovated, you either need to borrow or you need to find cash from somewhere. Tax takers finding cash from somewhere to fix up the broken kitchen that is our health system, our education system, our roads, our potholes, any of that thing. So that means the only other solutions, well, there's two solutions. One is that you borrow, or two is that you leave it broken. And I fear the plan for Labour would be to leave it broken. What the fucking, what's the point in that?
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Simon Wilson, says Hipkins ruled out a wealth tax and capital gains tax because Kiwi households are struggling. Maybe he didn't read the economist Katie Barker in the Financial Times reported yesterday. Taxes on family homes and super wealthy can be a powerful weapon to slow inflation.
Yep. All right, hey, let's keep going with the story, because I actually want to get to what Christopher Luxon said. And like we always say, if they say something we agree with or we support, we'll say, I agree with Christopher Luxon. I agree with what he said about Labour. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not guilty of exactly the same thing, but I do agree with what he said about Labour. And then I want to show you what the facts and figures and polling says about capital gains tax and wealth tax. I wonder if they dropped it because it's unpopular, Chewy. Well, we'll look at that, shall we? Let's look at that together, shall we?
I do think that the Labour Party have got this wrong. Yes, I do.
So wrong, in fact, Green Party members could refuse a coalition.
I think that there is a very real possibility of that, yes. New Zealanders cannot afford this coalition of chaos.
The issue of a capital gains tax has dogged Labour for years, Jacinda Ardern ruling it out in 2019. But with the growing price tag of super, the clean-up for the cyclone and COVID, economists say it can't be put off forever.
Over time, it is inevitable that we are going to have to look more broadly at the whole range of potential sources of income that can be taxed, because there are some very significant fiscal challenges in the decades ahead.
But it's the political challenges taxing our MPs right now.
And Mikey's with us now live from Parliament.
God, don't you hate fucking puns? It's the political challenges taxing. You can just imagine it was like in the sound of taxing. The Wiggles. Our MPs right now. Sorry, Mikey. Don't mean to take the piss, but I hate puns.
Big call from Chris Hipkins today, Mikey. What's your analysis of it 3 months out from the election?
Well, look, there's no denying that Labor has delivered a slap in the face to its base today. It has ditched its bread and butter voters for those in the middle, those crucial centre voters who will be so important to the Labor Party at this election, with the race being so tight. And while some may argue that Chris Hipkins is being a coward, Chippy is a chicken, the reality is he simply had no other choice. He could not risk picking...
That's such horse shit. I mean, I don't want to be critical of Mikey, but that is terrible analysis. He had no other option. That's what Mikey just said. The reality is he had no other option. Listen to it again.
He simply had no other choice.
No other choice. That is such terrible analysis. We'll show you why that's terrible analysis when we show you what the public want when it comes to capital gains tax and wealth tax.
Not risk picking another fight with farmers, and we know that it has always been so complex to carve out the family home from the farming business. Now,
and the other thing is, I think it's fairly clear that when I say farmers don't vote for Labor, what that means is the majority of farmers don't vote for Labor. So what it's like, it's the opposite of, what do you call it? Preaching to the choir, whatever the opposite of that is. Preaching to the unconverted that you're never going to get through to. Why would you give a fuck about trying to bring farmers on board or keep them happy if they're not going to vote for you anyway? There's no real point. And I do want to spin this conversation a little bit at the end, Chewy, to what we talked about last night briefly about, you know, what do you fight for and risk losing an election on? So that's going to how we wrap up this part of the conversation. Let's just get to the end of Mikey.
Chris Hipkins has also made this announcement early in the piece before hitting the campaign trail, and again trying to avoid any political oxygen being taken up on the issue of tax when it comes down to the campaign crunch. As for the threats from the Green Party that it may possibly well sit in the benches if it doesn't get its way on this issue, you can bet the Labor Party will be willing to call its bluff.
There you go. So there's the One News report, Chewy. I will show you exactly what Christopher Luxon said. It's only a 20-second clip. Oh, it's 40-second clip, sorry. But I agree with what his analysis is when it decides to play.
Obviously, the big news is we've seen a pretty desperate political move from Labor, which again suggests that you can't trust them on anything.
Okay, I agree with the desperate move. I don't agree with the you can't trust them on anything. But I believe it is a pretty desperate move, and it's a confusing move.
Loan tax. What we've seen is a government that has been working away, beavering away, dreaming up new capital gains tax, wealth taxes over the last few months. And then again today we have Chris Hipkins coming out and rule.
Yep.
Hang on. Is he double criticising there?
Maybe.
Bloody Labor spending their time thinking up new taxes and that, and then they don't even do them.
Yep.
Ruling it out. It's a pretty desperate politics. Clearly,
agree with that.
He's let this
Desperate
carry
politics.
on. They've continued to look into it. I've asked him many times in Parliament, will he rule it out? And he said no. And yet we now have a situation where, with the coalition of chaos, we have Labor saying they're now ruling it out for real this time, but who knows? And we've got the Green Party saying it's desperately part of a coalition agreement. So the coalition of chaos continues, and as I said, you can't trust Labor on tax.
It's not a coalition.
It's not a coalition. And the other thing is, you know, I haven't done this yet, but I am going to do this. The number, he's now basically saying, this is where I obviously disagree with him. He's saying, you know, the Greens are saying this is a bottom line. Yeah, what has fucking ACT said is a bottom line that you've ruled out, sir? Like, if you're going to throw criticism or shade at Labor because what the Greens says is the bottom line, hello, pottle kettle black, is that what it's called? Pot kettle black? Because there is plenty, let's say making the adult age for criminal things 17, that becomes a bottom line for ACT, and you've got exactly the same problem. So let's just cool our jets, shall we? I want to show you. You go. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, like, Luxon could have just made a simple, short statement that would have been absolutely fucking devastating. He just could have called them cowards and moved on with it. He could have gone. The best comment you can make, right, is to hit them in their base. Labor voters, look, Chris Hipkins has left you high and dry. He knows that you want this, and he's not giving it to you. Boom. Say that and walk away. But he had to put his own little editorial spins on it, which is it just backfires, because you're just like, well, I can't trust you. You're in a coalition of chaos as well. Every time I hear that phrase, by the way, I'm reminded that he's got that for the British Conservatives.
Yeah.
So
The other thing he could have said was, look, really want to congratulate the Prime Minister on finally seeing sense and picking up a National Party policy. We will support it all the way. And we think that it's very, very good to see that the Prime Minister has the capacity to take on conservative values when it comes to finance when necessary. So, yep, congratulations to the Prime Minister. If he wants any more ideas about how to you know what I'm saying? Like, that would be, how much better would that have been than this kind of, because you can hear the pissy, the kind of pissy, slight, slappy sort of thing. It's not slappy head. I mean, you could argue that, but not slap, but the kind of backhanded sort of thing. It's not clever, but you know, well done on coming to our side, Prime Minister. We welcome you to the conservative fiscal side of politics. That would have been devastating as well.
As the rest JK has, you sink him by praise, and that would be a very smooth political operator, and it would be very, very funny and very, very devastating. But Luxon isn't that smooth political operator, so we get that ham-fisted statement, which is kind of just as damaging towards himself as it is towards Hipkins. Bizarre.
Okay, so let's have a look at this, and we're not going to go through the story. There's just a couple of lines I want to see. Election 2023, Labor's Chris Hicksons rules out wealth tax, capital gains tax. Right, this is a story from today, but there was some polling done earlier in this year, I believe, and I'll find it because I highlighted it. There it is. A News Hub Reid Research poll in May revealed that 53.1% of New Zealanders supported the government introducing a wealth tax. Well, 34.7, sorry. So a third of New Zealanders opposed it. So the polling says, Chippy, you don't need to fucking back down on this. The polling actually says if you go hard nuts on this, it will probably be something that will get you support. So that's why it's dumb. Why it's cowardly is exactly what Mikey said. No, they don't want to have more controversies with farmers. Who gives the fuck? They're not your voters. Anything, I mean, it's a little bit like, it's a bit like Joe Biden, right? Always talking about how he can reach across the aisle with the Republicans. It's really naive because he can't at the moment because they're a Trumpian group. It feels a little bit like Hipkins is being naive and going, oh, you know, we don't want to piss off the farmers. We'll reach out our hand to look for them. You reach out your hand, they're going to put a fucking cattle prod into it. They're not your friends. They're not your friends. The other thing is, this is the same thing. News Hub Reid Research poll finds majority of Kiwis back government revisiting capital gains tax. In the latest, this is from earlier in the year. In the latest News Hub Reid Research poll, we asked, should the government revisit introducing a capital gains tax on property? 54.7% said yes. 32.6% said no. Probably the same third of them that said no to the wealth tax. So both of those policies are not liked by 1/3 of the country. They're both liked by more than 50% of the country, and then there's some undecideds. Even if the undecideds swing to the don't like this, what it means is you've got 55% of the population, which is far more than you're going to get to fucking vote for you, wanting these policies. So it's cowardly. It is mealy-mouthed. It's bowing to some kind of pressure. It's probably following some kind of absolutely dickhead PR person up on the 9th floor. And it's bad politics because New Zealanders want them. It's a popular policy. New Zealanders want them. Why are you backing away from it? Especially when all the economists are saying, at some stage, we're going to have to do this. So what, you're going to wait for it to be unpopular and then you're going to do it? Of course not. It's popular now. Fucking do it.
Yeah, like when you, and it was kind of mentioned in one of those clips that we played, right? But you look at the balance sheet. We've got the COVID recovery. We've had major weather events. We've had an economic downturn, cost of living crisis, and all of that sort of stuff in the space of a couple of years. Now, people aren't going to just tank it. You know, this is the time where, you know, you've got that and you've got all the challenges that we know that is coming in the future with climate change and that sort of thing. Now is the time to be brave. And I think the contrast here between this piss poor and just, I can't describe how disappointed I was when I read it. stuff from Labor. And then you contrast that with what the Greens pulled out. That was absolutely a transformative, progressive, thoroughly backed, thoroughly costed, ready to go policy. That was just like, that's the most sort of, oh, holy shit, wow, political moment that I've had in ages. That's a good piece of work. It's completely different from what anybody else is offering. And then Labor could have gone, hey, look, we've reined in the Greens a little bit here. There's a few things in there that's crazy, but the most of it is really good, and we wholeheartedly have adopted it. We've stolen their homework, and Green Party's happy about it. Instead, they've got their major coalition partner going, well, I don't know if we're going to bother this time round. Fuck them.
Two things to wrap up this part of the conversation with. The first is, we had a conversation 1 year ago about various right-wing commentators saying, well, because Christopher Luxon said it, you can't question it. I'll remind you of that conversation briefly, right? I'll remind you of that conversation. This is from 1 year ago.
Dynamics in terms of people's attitudes toward these things will not, in fact, change.
Hang on, I got the wrong spot there, I think. 7:25 I'm supposed to be at. Sorry, I didn't get it queued up. Here we go. Here we go again.
Are you aware of the clear and unambiguous comments made by Christopher Luxon regarding the status quo on abortion law settings in New Zealand?
Clear and unambiguous statements, right? So Christopher Luxon has made clear and unambiguous comments on abortion, right? Forget it's on abortion, but he's made clear and unambiguous comments. Got that?
Yes, my article talks about how emphatic he's been in making those statements.
Yet you still say he has a dilemma. Why?
Because there's an obvious dilemma for a pro-choice person having to support abortion laws in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm. And for someone that is supposedly politically neutral, that definitely sounds like some editorializing in his questions there.
Well, the other thing is, the dilemma is, one of his dilemmas is, because he has denounced this. So this is the thing, right? This is why now Sean Plunkett's being disingenuous, right? Because if Jacinda Ardern said something before the next election, so let's just say Chippy instead of Jacinda Ardern said something before the next election, he would not be saying, well, she's unequivocally said it, so we have to believe her. He'd be going, I don't believe her. I don't believe she's going to stick by that, because that wouldn't suit his political narrative. So if you're not going to allow it it's the hypocrisy of what will happen, right? So what he's basically saying is, Mr. Luxon has said it, so you must trust him. If you don't trust him, then you're just doing a hit piece on him. I guarantee you there'll be times between now and the next election where he won't trust, he won't believe something that the left has said will or won't happen after the election. I guarantee it. In fact, I'm willing to put a slightly high wager on it. So let's see if in the next 24 to 48 hours I'm proven correct. I'm not even talking about, I don't know who those two guys were doing that commentary. One of them looked a bit like me, but much fatter.
Very good.
But I will, let's see if people, and I use Sean Plunkett there because that was a clip we had, but like Sean Plunkett, right-wing commentators do to Chippy what they expected the left to do to Christopher Luxon on abortion, which is he said it, so you shouldn't be questioning his honour. So Chippy has said it, so let's see if they question his honour and his integrity. Right. That's kind of a let's just wait and see. The second thing, Chewy, about this, as I said last night, watching this TYT stuff going on in America, thinking about where do we want to stand in history? If it was 1965, 1966, 1967, 1968, would we, looking back from today, want to be standing on the side of civil rights in America, even though it was unpopular and could well have lost us the election? I think all of us would say we would much prefer to have done that back then. So I don't know if it's a mind shift change, but it's a bit of a challenge to my own ideologies, because I'm like, well, you can't do anything if you're not in government. But that still flips over to actually you still got to do the right thing. The right thing in this instance is capital gains tax and a wealth tax. The problem that the left are now facing, that Chippy is now facing, is for some reason he doesn't know that it's popular. That's what I don't get. But even if it was unpopular, is it worth losing this election to do the right thing? Was it worth in 1968 losing an election to standing up for civil rights? Is it right now to lose an election to stand up for minority rights, whatever group that is, be it the trans community, be it Māori, be it whatever group it is? Is it right? Is it the right thing to do in 50 years to look back on 2023 to stand up for the right thing today, even if we lose the election? And I probably would have said a few months ago, I don't know about that. But I think, honestly, after watching TYT, really honestly watching what they're doing at the moment, I think I'm more on the side of, yep, an election's not worth standing up for the wrong decision. Now, capital gains tax versus wealth tax is not as serious as civil rights in the USA when it comes to, policy and human rights, for example. But it is still a conversation we can have about doing the right or wrong thing. And I don't know if I'm quite in a position right now where I can say I've ruled out Labor, but I tell you what, it's put a pretty big ding in my plans for voting for this year. I've said very recently that I don't know who I'm going to vote for yet, but let's put Labor at the bottom of that list at the moment, without question, shall we?
Yep. Yeah, I fired off an email to his office the other day. Earlier today, just saying how disappointed I am. I don't know if he'll read them. I don't know if someone will go, hey, Chris, there are 140,000 really shitty emails calling you a coward and making the hashtag chicken chippy trend. Maybe we should have a look at it. I mean, he's put himself in a position now that if he takes that feedback and winds it back, then there's going to be criticism of that as well. It's a dumb political move.
Yeah. Oh, it's just dumb. Like, this is what I can't get. I just showed you the poll numbers. These are popular policies. You are not ever going to be able to reach the hand across the aisle to the ACT Party voters or the right side, as in the right-wing side, of National. So why are you trying to placate them? What you want is to get the left to fucking vote. Because if the left votes, the left wins. And what you're doing with this kind of policy is going to get a whole bunch of people to be disenfranchised and go, fuck it. You're actually going to cost yourself the election because you're going to put a thought into left-wing people's heads not to vote.
We've been saying this all year, right? Is that the left needed to lean into being the left party and not play the middle.
Yep.
And here we're seeing, it's not. I often didn't understand people using liberal as kind of a dig, but this is a liberal policy, right? It's not progressive. It doesn't help anyone. It's the status quo at a time where we can't afford the status quo. There are so many challenges ahead of us, and challenges need a bigger effort, and this is not a big effort. This is just weak. I keep coming back to that word. It's weak.
Yeah. It's cowardly. It's weak, I think it's weak and it's dumb. Right? Maybe that's our next fucking t-shirt. I was thinking about doing a Team Chippy one. Maybe I'll just do a weak and dumb t-shirt for next time around. But I'll tell you what. Here's the tester. Yeah. Let's have a look at the polling in 2 weeks from now and see if the Greens get a big jump. Or Te Pāti Māori get a big jump. You might not see the left bloc go up by very much, but it'll be very interesting to see if there is a swing or what. I'm not even talking about big, a couple of percentage points away from Labor. And I mean, are they trying to lose? I mean, is that really what they're trying to do?